We want to create impact, and that's why also we say, although we want to have a holistic approach, we need to focus still. And this Nexus focus on 3 major sectors: water, energy, and food. And as we know, these sectors compete within countries and across borders. And it's so important that we come beyond to solve problems according to the biggest power of one sector. So, like if the Minister for Agriculture is a brother of the President, the agri sector will always be in the position to get what it needs, to serve its needs. So, and this is what this project is about. We need to get to a decision making that includes decision makers from the local to the national level and to the regional level, to have a decision making that focuses on these interdependencies. I can't get it right. Interdependencies. So, and we're really grateful to have so many actors all across the globe to joining this program, to jointly go this path of addressing the challenges, the cross-sectoral challenges related to water in these 3 sectors, for their region, a tailor-made approach within their respective region, and then to share the experience with colleagues. This is to exchange now the experiences. This is about your experience, and I will be here. I'm very curious to hear what your experiences are, and I'm really happy to follow up on this after this event and to take this further. And so yes, thank you very much for being here today with us, and very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wenzel, for the inspiring words. We will now come to the 5 regions that are part of this project. So this program takes place in the Niger Basin, implemented by the Niger Basin Authority with support from GIZ. In addition, in Central Asia, with the support of the Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia, CARIC, it's implemented. For the Middle East and North African region, Nexus program is implemented by the League of Arab States with support of GIZ. In Latin America, the program is implemented by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean with support of GIZ as well. And in Southern Africa, it's implemented by the Southern African Development Community with support of the Global Water Partnership. And I'm very delighted that we have representatives, high-level representatives from all institutions that will give an insight how they are implementing Nexus in their region. For this, actually we have prepared an introduction to the overall program, but we have 2 speakers that need to lead early, so we will go directly into the presentation of the regions, and in the end do a small recap again on how the Nexus approach in general is done across all the 5 regions. So we will start with a first short introduction from Central Asia and from the League of Arab States to give us an idea on how they are implementing. And from Central Asia, we will learn from a very practical presentation on how Nexus can solve problems across multi-sectoral dams. For this, I'm very pleased to welcome Mr. Uya Yurarev. He's the representative of the Republic of Uzbekistan and in the executive committee of the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea. And he's as well a member of the steering committee of the EU-funded Central Asia Nexus Dialogue project from Uzbekistan and part of the Central Asian Regional Economic Cooperation Program, CARIC. So Rab, the floor is yours. I would please ask you to be brief, to as well give us still the chance to the League of Arab States to present shortly their program.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, in my speech, I would like to share with you the experience of the implementation Nexus approach in Uzbekistan. The implementation of the second phase of the Central Asia Nexus Dialogue project funded by the European Union was started by Karek in Uzbekistan and other CA countries in February 2021 in partnership with the Ministry of Water Resources of Uzbekistan. The main purpose of the phase 2 is the practical application of Nexus tools, methods and techniques through implementations of WEF Nexus pilot projects and to identification of the optimal trade-offs to reduce the overall cost and increase mutual benefit. The Tuyumun hydroelectric complex along the border between Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan is an excellent example of the deep contents of the key implements of the Nexus approach, water, energy, food. The Tuyumun hydroelectric complex provides seasonal regulation of the volume of the water in the Amudarya River and the available of water and energy resources necessary for farms and engaged in the cultivation of melons and other crops, as well as fish farming. It is located on the border of Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan in the lower reaches of the Amudarya River and is a system of far interconnected resources and canals. The Tuyumun provides water to irrigated lands in the Kharazm region, the Republic of Karakalpakstan in Uzbekistan, and the Dashauz Vilayet in Turkmenistan. The natural process of siltation complicates the effective use of water, which is a problem for all water bodies in Central Asia. The mountains relief and the high concentration of suspended matter in the Amudarya River accelerate the intensity of the sedimentation process. And the latest sedimentation assessments were conducted 11 years ago, while the sedimentation cleaning of the reservoirs has not been conducted since its commission 40 years ago. In addition to this challenge of water resources management, the problem of heat and drought in the area has a high impact on agriculture and vegetable growing. After discussing the scope of work and technical measures for pumping sediments from the channel reservoirs, the members of the working group agreed to assess the climatic vulnerability and risks at the site, as well as develop an adaptation program. This technical working group includes associate representatives of the relevant ministries and departments of Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, as well as the operating department of the Tuyumun hydroelectric complex itself. As assessment of the climate vulnerability and climate change showing that expected extreme temperatures and droughts will have a major impact on agriculture, water and energy management. However, total rainfall is expected to increase in the form of heavy precipitation. Land conservation, education and health require attention in terms of geographic sensitivity and adaptability. Extreme precipitation and flooding as are expected in future in the upper Amudarya basin. This requires climate modeling of river flow and management of resources. Experts recommend reserving adaptational reservoir buffer capacity to overcome increasing drought and overflow in rivers. The combination of land degradation and heavy rainfall will increase sediment runoff in the Amudarya. The role of glaciers in the water flow will face a decrease, resulting in a decrease but increase in peak flow after 2040. Climate change adaptation measures will be effective if supported by natural measures. They expect stresses that investment in climate adaptation have a high economic benefit ratio, so a 1 million investment would result in a avoidable cost of 4 to 9 million. In cancellation, I would like to highlight that this transboundary object plays an important role for the countries of the lower reaches of the Amudarya River and supports the standard of living of the local population, innovation solutions for cleaning and utilizing bottom sediments can help to reduce opportunity costs for the agriculture sector of both countries. We hope that the implementation of the Nexus demonstration project will help to find technical and investment opportunities to solve the problem of intensive situation of the channel reservoir at the Tuyamun hydroelectric complex. Thank you very much.
There will be a representative for the Central Asian region for the later discussion. We will now directly hand over to the League of Arab States, and I'm very pleased that Ambassador Shahira Hassan Wabi is here with us. Thank you as well for taking the time. You are the Chief of Natural Resources, Sustainability, Partnerships and Disaster Risk Reduction at the Leagues of Arab States. And as well, you will give a first idea how are the framework conditions in the League of Arab States for implementing Nexus. So thank you for giving us a first introduction to this. The floor is yours, Mr. Ambassador.
Actually, I am going to give you an overview of what are the problems that necessitates that we have a Nexus approach in the Arab region. The Arab region faces growing challenges that I believe have been sustainable, up to now at least. I am saying this sustainable because I have been enumerating these challenges for the last 20 years. Of course, I know, like everyone else, the drivers of these challenges, namely the socioeconomic transition, or let us say the development, the population growth, rapid urbanization, political instability in many cases, and environmental degradation and climate change, among others, and also the capabilities of institutions and government and governance. So why are we taking same place steps? You know, when you take you are moving in the same place. The region is characterized by an arid and extremely variable climate with increasing pressure on water resources. This pressure is both natural, that means like climate change and so on, and human-induced through governance. The region is highly dependent on food imports. The region is endowed, however, with energy, both fossil and renewable. The problem is then the necessity of the efficiency of resources use. As increased demand for water, energy, and food, thus creating an unprecedented pressure on these natural resources. So the overarching development trends in the Arab region put pressure on water, on land, and on energy as well, and other resources, of course. A fact exacerbated by the climate change. Therefore, there is dire need for a big change. To address water insecurity, attempts to shift to non-conventional water resources need to be energy and climate smart. Efforts of energy transitions to renewable should be water smart, while the challenges to achieve agricultural transitions cannot be overcome without being water and energy smart. So the key word or the magic word is smart. To be able to be smart, the Nexus approach is our new opportunity, where it can boost the capabilities of our institutions, teach the relevant authorities at all levels, adopt the integration in management approach, institutionalize the good governance of natural resources. Only then, and through addressing the interdependencies between the respective resources, will we be able to increase resource efficiency, overcome resource scarcity, improve human well-being, achieve even political stability, and support regional cooperation. However, I want to give you a quick example since we are in the Transboundary Water Pavilion. And this example, before I conclude, Yani, of my experience in a governance issue that can benefit from a Nexus approach, in my view, and this issue is a very sensitive issue where vested interests are huge and uncompromisable from a political perspective. However, if we are thinking smart, for me, which equals efficient, then it is a different story. So the story goes like in 2008, the Arab Ministerial Water Council, of which I am the secretariat, my department is the secretariat, discussed cooperation in shared water management in response to the Council's statute, which stipulates the necessity of to support coordination and cooperation between the Arab countries with shared basins, with the aim of using them to realize optimum, equitable, and just use between them. So this is the aim: optimum, equitable, and just use between them. The discussions continued for 3 years. This was 2008. And a draft of legal framework of shared water resources in the Arab region was prepared, and a consultative meeting was held to discuss it in 2011. So, yani, just to start the discussion, it took us 3 years. Since then, from 2011 to 2017, which means 6 years, this draft has been negotiated through a series of meetings and events with no agreement. The aspirations and enthusiasm diminished, and all these meetings culminated in one agreement, which is good, to postpone the discussion of the legal framework on shared water management between Arab states and replace it with drafting guide principles for the cooperation in shared water management in the Arab region. This was in 2017. So today we are in 2022. You can count the years. We have been discussing the guiding principles to no avail. Consensus is not nearing. Why? Because even though there is this political will, which is manipulated or manifested in the statute of the council itself, I believe there is no political skill to implement this political will. I believe the Nexus is a good opportunity to make people understand that their interest in using the resources efficiently will solve the problem. So please, can anyone help me solve this Rubik cube? Thank you very much. Sorry, Robert, because I have to leave. I have another meeting. My colleague, Dr. Imad Adli, the representative of the civil society in the Arab region, who is the coordinator of a network of civil societies who have members in all the 22 Arab countries, will come also to discuss with you and give another perspectives of the civil society in the Arab region.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ambassador. I think there were a lot of interesting points. You added another dimensions of just and equitable sustainable development, which are as well important for the Nexus. Then we learned you need to be smart, but kind of you need a long breath as well for developing such a framework, which really entails all the different dimensions. So good luck on your road, and please, Sally, you can come here and join us in place of the ambassador. Okay, we will now continue with the next region, and for this I'm pleased, and I will quickly change to French, so for those that are having their headsets, get ready. For the next region, it's actually the region that I'm working as well, and I'm very, very pleased and delighted for this to welcome the new technical director of the Niger Basin Authority. Alors, Monsieur le directeur technique, Monsieur Munkaila, vous êtes depuis quelques mois maintenant le nouveau directeur technique de l'autorité du bassin du Niger. Et maintenant, après, on a eu deux exemples. Un exemple plus technique sur la gestion d'un barrage multistructurant. Et on a eu maintenant l'exemple du longue durée pour une institutionnalisation de l'approche Nexus dans une autre région, mais qui a quelques parallélités également avec votre région. Maintenant, on s'intéresse aussi quelles sont les conditions de base dans l'autorité du bassin du Niger, quelles sont les institutions politique, comment c'est organisé l'autorité du bassin du Niger avec ses 9 pays membres pour finalement mettre ensemble les trois secteurs et arriver également à une politique Nexus comme également l'ambassadrice a déjà présenté.
Merci de nous donner cette importante opportunité de partager notre expérience sur la mise en œuvre de l'approche Nexus. Mais avant cela, je voudrais d'abord notifier que le bassin du Niger, c'est un système fluvial de 4200 km de parcours. C'est également 1 500 000 km² de superficie active. Et c'est une population totale de plus de 160 millions répartis dans 9 différents pays. Et du coup, donc, l'autorité du bassin du Niger, créée il y a plus de 40 ans aujourd'hui, l'a été pour tenter d'atteindre 2 objectifs fondamentaux, qui sont la promotion de la coopération entre les États membres, qui sont au nombre de 9, et également booster le développement socio-économique intégré à l'échelle de l'ensemble du bassin. Pour la question posée à l'autorité du bassin du Niger, nous avons très vite compris que pour mettre en œuvre un programme Nexus efficace, il faut d'abord une vision claire, il faut un ou des instruments de mise en œuvre de la vision, il faut également des documents et des outils de planification et de programmation stratégique, opérationnelle et d'investissement, et il faut surtout une bonne gouvernance. Partant donc de cette compréhension, nous nous sommes très vite dotés d'une vision claire appelée la vision partagée qui est adoptée par l'ensemble des États membres de l'autorité du bassin du Niger. Et comme instrument de mise en œuvre de la vision, nous nous sommes également dotés d'une charte de l'eau de l'ABN dont les dispositions ont été complétées et précisées par 5 principales annexes, donc dont la dernière en date, l'annexe numéro 5, adoptée seulement l'année passée, par la dernière session du Conseil des ministres et qui porte sur le statut juridique des ouvrages communs et des ouvrages d'intérêt commun. Nous avons également mis en place un cadre de gouvernance qui est composé d'un sommet des chefs d'État, d'un conseil des ministres, d'un comité technique des experts et d'un secrétariat exécutif qui est chargé de la mise en œuvre de la vision, des instruments et des outils de planification stratégique opérationnelle et d'investissement, mais qui est également chargé de la mise en œuvre des recommandations qui sont la traduction directe des résolutions prises par le Conseil des ministres. Voilà, c'est tout ce dispositif qui nous a permis aujourd'hui d'atteindre le niveau de performance et d'efficacité reconnu par tous les partenaires et aussi par nos pairs organismes de bassins transfrontaliers avec qui nous sommes parfaitement disposés à partager nos expériences.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur le directeur. On voit déjà que dans les documents et les stratégies que l'ABN a mis en place depuis des années, on retrouve déjà beaucoup des aspects Nexus. Donc, votre mandat, ça dépasse largement la gestion de l'eau. Il y a toujours déjà aussi le développement durable dans le bassin, ainsi compris également l'énergie, le développement énergétique, mais également les développements en termes d'irrigation et agriculture. Maintenant, prochainement, on aura une contribution par vidéo, la 4e région de la mise en œuvre de l'approche Nexus. Okay, I will probably switch again back to English for the largest part of the audience. For the next presentation, unfortunately cannot come here. The flight over the ocean is a bit far away than from the Niger Basin. But we have a contribution from the Latin American and the Caribbean region. And there, Dr. Silvia Matus, who is the Economic Affairs Officer for the Water and Energy Unit with the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, CEPAL, will as well firstly present shortly what are kind of the preconditions, the institutional frameworks of the CEPAL Commission and how their nexus can be introduced. And for this we have a video statement.
Regarding the question of what are the institutional preconditions for a Nexus governance framework in our region, I would extend my answer and advocate that we actually need a water management transition. Water management transition in Latin America and the Caribbean is connected to the following 4 key goals. First, to guarantee the human right to safely manage drinking water and sanitation by boosting investment in this sector. Second, to increase equality of access and affordability, thus eradicating water poverty. Third, to reverse the growing negative externalities associated with pollution, overexploitation, and socio-environmental conflicts. And fourth, to develop circular economy systems that reduce pressure on water resources, establishing a trend towards decoupling between water extraction and GDP. To achieve these goals, a Nexus approach is central because it fosters articulation across different sectors and basin users. It clarifies priorities such as the human right to water, so that in situations of scarcity, water is prioritized for human consumption. It also considers economic instruments, such as charges for different usages, as well as taxes or fines for negative environmental impacts. It promotes multi-sector investment, encouraging the adoption of technology that lead to reuse and recovery of water, helping us to secure more sustainable and efficient water management.
Before I turn to the second question, last but not least, I'm very happy as well to have the SADC community represented here. So for the Southern African Development Community, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Dumasani Chebele, who's the Program Officer for Water and the Directorate of Infrastructure. SADC is as well a forerunner when it comes to implementing Nexus within all the member states of the SADC region. And you developed own technical boards on governing Nexus across ministries, and I'm very pleased to learn how, and if you took the same long road as the League of Arab States till you got to the position where you managed to create your technical boards on Nexus. So, Dr. Jebele, please, what are the preconditions for Nexus in the SADC region?
In the SADC region, the preconditions would be associated with how or what the region stands for in its bigger objectives. The first point is that already highlighted in the case of the Niger Basin, the shared vision as a precondition, which is a shared vision by all the sectors involved in the Nexus, the vision of industrialization, vision of poverty eradication, vision of regional integration and upliftment of the life standards of the people. So the sectors should share all of them participate in or partake in the same vision. So we are using that approach. The other condition is that of equality among the sectors that are participating in the Nexus arrangement. In our case, we are promoting the WEF, which is Water, Energy, Food Nexus. So they should be seen to be equal, not one like appearing superior to the others. Each one should appreciate that they need to exist with the other, and likewise the leadership. So the principle of co-leadership is important. Lastly, and is that of appreciation indeed that each of these sectors will not really contribute significantly in the regional vision of development, peace and security, industrializing region if they participate alone. They need each other to make the story, to make impact happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We see there come some kind of parallels between the two regions here, starting with the shared vision, which is really the basis as well for developing any further Nexus visions. Just make sure, will you, for Kazakh, will you continue taking part in this discussion? So we will have now, next to the simultaneous translation as well for Russia, consecutive translation for the support again of the for the current contribution. And now we have Mr. Sulaimanov from Kyrgyzstan, and he will be able to tell us a bit more how now, starting now from the multi-structural dam again, as how can Nexus in Kyrgyzstan, but as well in the entire region, can be supported with new policy documents and can be implemented in a long term, as we learned as well from the League of Arab States.
За последние годы в Кыргызстане произведены значимые институциональные преобразования с учетом подхода Nexus в водном, энергетическом, продовольственном секторах. В целях повышения эффективности и координации деятельности министерств и государственных органов по вопросам управления, охраны, использования водных и земельных ресурсов указом президента Кыргызской Республики был 24 ноября 2021 года образован Национальный совет по водным и земельным ресурсам при президенте Кыргызской Республики.
Over the recent years, significant institutional transformations have been made in the Kyrgyz Republic in light of Nexus approach in the sectors of water, energy, and food for sustainable economic development. The National Council on Water and Land Resources under the President of the Kyrgyz Republic was established by the President decree on the 24th of March 2021 to improve coordination between the ministries and state agencies on management, protection and use of water and land resources.
Целью создания Национального совета является выработка системных, комплексных и скоординированных рекомендаций и мер политики по управлению водными и земельными ресурсами, их использования и охране. Кыргызской Республики, а председателем Национального совета является президент Кыргызской Республики, его заместителем председатель Кабинета министров и министр природных ресурсов, экологии и технического надзора. Состав Национального совета утверждается президентом Кыргызской Республики.
The purpose of establishing the National Council is to develop systematic, comprehensive, and coordinated recommendation and policy measures for water and the land management, use, and protection. The National Council is established by the President of the Kyrgyz Republic. He the chairman of the Council, and his deputies, the chairman of the Cabinet of Ministers of the Kyrgyz Republic, also the Minister of Natural Resources, Ecology, and Technical Supervision are his deputies.
Функции секретариата Национального совета осуществляет уполномоченный орган в сфере природных ресурсов. Основными задачами Национального совета является координация деятельности министерств и других государственных органов по управлению водными, земельными ресурсами, их использование и охране. Серьезно? Дальше.
The functions of the Secretariat of the National Council are performed by the authorized body in the sphere of natural resources. The National Council main tasks are coordinating the activities of ministries and state agencies on water and land resources management, their use and protection.
С целью укрепления продовольственной безопасности и агропродовольственного сектора через применение комплексных решений проект Евросоюза «Нексусный диалог» в Центральной Азии оказал поддержку Министерству сельскохозяйства в разработке стратегии развития сельскохозяйства Кыргызской Республики на 20-25 годы. Следует отметить, что данные стратегии учтены взаимосвязи земельно-водной, продовольственных секторов для достижения главной цели обеспечения продовольственной безопасности Кыргызской Республики.
Okay. To strengthen food security and the agro-food sector through the application of integrated solutions, the European Union project Nexus Dialogue in Central Asia supported the Minister of Agriculture in developing the strategy for agricultural development for 2021-2025. It should be noted that this strategy takes into account the relationship of land and water, as well as the food sectors to achieve the main goal. It is the ensuring food security in the Kyrgyz Republic.
Развитие сельскохозяйства будет сконцентрировано на следующих приоритетных направлениях. Поддержка роста производства и экспорта агропромышленной продукции, обеспечение сельскохозяйственного производства сервисными услугами, повышение эффективности, рациональное использование водных и земельных ресурсов. В настоящее время начато внедрение современных сельскохозяйственных технологий, в частности капельное орошение. Роль Министерства сельскохозяйства также была расширена и сейчас включает вопросы выработки и реализации единой государственной политики в области сельскохозяйства, водного, лесного хозяйства, пищевой промышленности, эффективного рационального земельных ресурсов, водных, ирригационных и мелиоративных системах.
The agricultural development will be focused on the following priorities. The first one, the supporting production growth and the export of agro-industrial products. The second one is provision of agricultural production with services. And the third one, increasing the efficient of rational use of water and land resources. Introduction of modern agricultural techniques, in particular drip irrigation, is launched in our country.
В целях обеспечения энергетической безопасности Кыргызстан намерен поэтапно реализовывать на своей территории ряд проектов по строительству ГЭС, являющихся экологически чистым источником энергии. Доступ к современным экологическим чистым недорогим услугам энергоснабжения в развивающихся странах имеет чрезвычайно важное значение в целях устойчивого развития до 2030 года. Полагаем, что реализация проекта по строительству ГЭС в Кыргызстане обеспечит потребность стран Центральной Азии гидроэнергии и тем самым создаст благоприятные условия для устойчивого развития всего региона.
In order to ensure energy security, the Kyrgyz Republic intends to gradually implement on its territory a number of projects for construction of hydropower plants, which are environmentally friendly source of energy. Access to modern, environmentally clean and affordable energy services in developing countries is critical to achieving the global development goals stated in the Sustainable Development Goal 2030. So we believe that the construction of hydropower plants in our country will meet the needs of Central Asian countries in hydropower, and thereby we create favorable conditions for the sustainable development of our countries in Central Asia.
Okay, there was just the add-on as well. It's the strategic vision in the beginning, which is very crucial and pivotal to set the Nexus framework apart. And what we learned, I think, is the role of the Prime Minister is pivotal for then going down to the single sectors and developing the strategies, as you mentioned, the water security strategy, the agriculture strategy, but having the steering structure of the Prime Minister and having this decision first is really, I think, an important learning from your experience. So thank you very much. So turning again to the League of Arab States, Dr. Ali, we learned now a lot of high ministerial frameworks, settings, transboundary cooperation between countries, having framework decisions from the Prime Minister to the ministers. But we learned in the beginning that Nexus actually is not only about cohesion between sectors, but is as well trying to get the different governance dimensions harmonized. So making sure that on the one hand, between countries, transboundary, there's justice and equitable usage of resources, but as well among local communities, civil society. So from the perspective of a civil society representative for the League of Arab States, how are you involved in Nexus decisions within the League of Arab States? How can you make sure that your voice is heard and that you as well have equal access to the different resources?
Thank you very much for being here, and thanks for all the participants here. Happy to join your session. Thanks, Robert, for your message. Of course, we have heard to Mrs. Shahira Wahbi about the challenges facing the Arab region, and I think it is not different from other regions in the sense that when we are talking about Nexus, it's always difficult to make this kind of coordination and cohesion and integration between the different aspects: water, food, energy, and so on. The problem that this cube you started with, Robert, the only one who can manage this cube is the communities themselves, because at the end of the day, they are the people who are dealing with the food and water and energy, and they have to survive. And the role of the civil society is always trying to help these linkages between what's happening at the political level and what's going on at the community-based level. As a civil society, we have actually, in the Arab region, we have two, I would say, tasks at the same time. It's also two challenges. The challenge is how to get this Nexus approach understood by the different stakeholders working in the area. It's not only what we have written on paper. If we did not even succeed to have the ink written, so what would be the situation for the implementation itself? So it's not only that we want to have the things written and agreed on paper, but we want this to be implemented at the regional level. We want to see this cooperation and Nexus approach to use the resources that already exist in the region and how to manage them in a way that they become at the end for the population, for the people now and the people later, they become sustainable. But the other challenge that we are facing as civil society is not only within the Arab region, it's also within the Arab region and the Nile Basin. Because within the Nile Basin, when it comes to the water, energy, and food, it's another big challenge. It's within the Arab region, maybe we don't agree on something that could bring us together and to make the maximum use of this cube. But at the Nile Basin, it might deal into conflicts. It might lead into tension. It might lead into violence. And it happened. So this is why we are always trying as a civil society to keep our voice heard at the policy level with the decision makers, ministers, maybe beyond that even. And we always try to make the communities able to survive. And this is the very important part of the human rights in this case, because we are not only thinking about the human rights of the generation right now, but we are thinking about generations later. So, for example, the challenge that we are facing in the Nile Basin, it's not for the time being, it's not for the 2022 and even 2030. We are talking about 2050, not even 2090, but also 2100. So this is how the civil society is always trying to bring this. Then the very simple way is that we use the dialogue. We want to use the dialogue as the tool that we have to use, always in bringing the different stakeholders together and to think together, to learn from our experiences, and to help this coordination happening in a healthy way. At the same time, we have also to encourage and support the civil society to take their role. For example, when you look at the funding coming from the big donor agencies. Thank you. So the interpreter can hear me now. So what the dilemma here is that the resources that are available for the civil society to build on there is very small. We have many success stories on a small scale, but still we have the capacity to work on a medium scale and on a large scale. And the big issue here is how we can replicate, how we can build on these experiences and this knowledge and these practices, and to take it on a larger scale, to not only to replicate but only to expand. So this is in a very simple way how the civil society is trying to be in the picture. But of course we are facing a lot of challenges, especially when you talk about Africa and Middle East. Thank you very much, Robert.
Dr. Aldi, thank you very much for these clear messages. So we learned, of course, we need these policy frameworks. We need the Prime Minister to set up the council, but it doesn't matter in the end if the local communities are not implemented, because they are the one implementing the project on the ground. I think this is really an important message. So I think this is something that you two can relate to as well a lot, because there as well civil society representatives who are involved in the Nexus processes. So now we understood from both of you as well how the institutional setup is in your region. Now, could we turn maybe what are kind of the solutions you have, or what is still missing for implementing the Nexus, as well how can you integrate local civil society representatives for implementing Nexus? So what are the next steps you will need to take? And I want to start with the SADC region and then return again to French and have the Niger Basin Authority add to this question.
Thank you very much. It's a bit of a tricky question because the will is usually there, but the hows of doing it. The Nexus governance framework that we have established or developed for SADC allows us to see the whole picture of all players, the planners, the decision makers, the stakeholders, and how the whole process interacts with the regional development strategies and the like. Otherwise, we as part of the strategy for rollout, obviously it's a newer concept, the issue of awareness on how for effective engagement. That awareness should connect with the story of the processes of development to understand what will happen for the energy development, who are the stakeholders involved, what are the processes involved, likewise in the agricultural sector, and so is the water sector. So awareness, and then number two, that capacity building. Therefore, now that we know, how should we be ready to support and the systems to receive your voice in the planning and the actual implementation of it. That's how I would put it. Thank you.
Encore dans une même façon maintenant, dans le bassin du... Ouais, on attend une seconde. Dans le bassin du Niger, également la même question. Quelles sont les solutions que vous avez en termes de Nexus pour appuyer également la société civile? Et en plus, qu'est-ce qu'il faut, qu'est-ce qui manque encore? Qu'est-ce que sont les prochaines étapes pour inclure tous les différentes dimensions Nexus et pour vraiment avoir un cadre politique pour résoudre des défis Nexus dans le bassin. Monsieur le directeur technique.
Bien, merci pour cette question. À l'autorité du bassin du Niger, nous pensons qu'il faut avoir travaillé sur un cadre formel à élaborer et à mettre en place à travers un processus exclusivement participatif et inclusif et avec une implication effective des populations. À l'autorité du bassin du Niger, nous sommes dans cette dynamique parce que nous sommes convaincus que ce cadre peut être ou une convention, ou une charte, ou un code de conduite, ou encore des directives. Donc à l'autorité du bassin du Niger, nous sommes, je disais, dans cette dynamique. D'abord, pour ce qui est de l'implication effective des populations, nous sommes déjà en train de le faire à travers la mise en place des associations des usagers et usagères des ressources naturelles au niveau de l'ensemble du bassin. Et nous avons pour cela opté pour l'approche directive. Et donc nous sommes actuellement en train d'exécuter un processus d'élaboration et de mise en place de directives Nexus qui le sera à travers un cadre absolument participatif et inclusif comportant la tenue et l'organisation d'une dizaine d'événements nationaux de dialogue qui seront organisés au niveau de l'ensemble des États membres avant que le projet de directive soit soumis à l'adoption du Conseil des ministres pour qu'on ait les directives amendées. Une fois que ces directives seront élaborées et mises en place, ils seront à côté de ce que nous avons déjà comme dispositif composé de la charte et de ses annexes pour renforcer encore le cadre de gouvernance de Nexus au niveau de l'autorité du bassin du Niger, à commencer par la prise en compte systématique des implications de ces directives dans nos différents documents de planification stratégique, de planification opérationnelle et de programmation d'investissement. Le processus avance normalement et si la tendance se maintient, et nous sommes convaincus qu'elle se maintiendra, d'ici peu de temps, nous allons avoir nos directives Nexus qui vont être de stricte application au niveau de tout ce que nous faisons à l'échelle du bassin.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur le directeur, et bon courage pour cette approche d'organisation des dialogues Nexus nationaux dans tout le pays et avec les directives que vous êtes en train d'élaborer. We will now turn to the last question that we asked as well to CEPAL for the league for Latin America as well on what are kind of the missing tools that we need to expand the Nexus approach. And then I'm happy to open as well the floor for questions to our panelists here.
Concerning how a Nexus governance approach contributes to effective project implementation and investment decisions, or put differently, how Nexus system thinking is relevant in both national and transboundary water basin management, I would like to highlight 6 recommendations which emerge from the analysis of regional case studies and the guideline we have developed for effective adoption and evaluation of Nexus-based policies and actions. These are, number 1, to ensure that dialogue and participation is as broad as possible, representing all involved interests and sectors. Number 2, to strengthen the multidimensional analysis of root problems in order to formulate realistic objectives with tangible goals and intersectoral scope. Number 3, to evaluate alternatives and courses of action from economic as well as socio-environmental perspectives. Number 4, to establish clear coordination mechanisms between public agencies and relevant intersectoral actors. Number 5, to focus on balanced financial planning and strong leadership. In other words, Nexus project components need to receive equitable attention and implementation. Number 6, dedicate sufficient resources to monitoring and evaluation, as these are central to advanced Nexus approach adoption. These 6 recommendations are critical issues to consider at the local and national scales, but they become highly complex at the cross-border level. Therefore, 4 additional aspects are also advocated for interventions at this scale. The first one is to update or to develop joint regulatory frameworks capable of responding to interconnected water sustainability challenges. Second, to modernize or create intersectoral and international coordination arenas for which a political commitment and clear rules between countries are required. Third, to establish shared information and monitoring systems to track policies and their impacts on transboundary water bodies. And fourth, to align public and private financing mechanisms to optimize the use of water resources, recognizing their multiple uses and avoiding duplication. I hope these insights are useful for your discussion and exchanges. Thank you very much for your attention.
So 6 clear recommendations from CEPAL, starting as well with, again, the political framework, but then again involving all the other actors. I think was as well a clear message that we already had from the League of Arab States. So I'm now pleased to open the floor. We might have 5 to 10 minutes for discussions from questions from the floor before we will then have some closing remarks and a summary of the key points discussed here. Who of you would like to?
I hope it's on. Thank you so much. My name is Isaac Nyaroya. I'm from Lake Victoria Basin Commission. Actually, mine is just an appreciation for having invited us to participate in this session, because it's really very informative, and I think we are learning a lot. And when I was in the introduction, when I was seeing the program being implemented in most of the regions, I was just wondering why, such a good program, Nexus program, is not implemented in the East African region. And we are having very key institutions, basin organizations like Lake Victoria Basin Commission, like Nairobi Basin Initiative, which Doctor talked about, that can really be a very much positioned to partner in the implementation of this program. Because when you look at Lake Victoria Basin Commission, we have really strong structures which start from the sectoral committees to the coordination committees of permanent secretaries, then to the sector council of ministers, then which go up to the council of ministers for East African community. And there's a lot of work that has been done, and I think it's a good platform that we can use actually to build on what is already existing to kind of implement now the Nexus program. So we look forward to discussions, to learning from our colleagues what has taken place in the other regions, and probably see how this kind of program can be also implemented in the East African region. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot to the comment. Actually, here at the forum, we learn there are a lot of Nexus approaches out in the world. Yesterday, I participated in a discussion and a presentation from the Nexus approach in Korea. There's a Nexus approach as well here in Senegal. So there are a lot of Nexus approaches. And this phase is still running till next year, and then we're looking forward how the program can be extended. And I think for the closing words, my colleague Irene Zander will be able to share we will have another question, but we'll be able to share what are the lessons learned we have, and we have an own resource platform where all these lessons can be as well transferred to other regions. But are there any other questions to the participants here? And I see there was one over there.
Merci beaucoup. Voilà, je voudrais d'abord me présenter. Voilà, je m'appelle Ndeye Fatou Diaouguène, je travaille au bureau du programme des Nations Unies pour le développement à Dakar. Alors, nous avons suivi l'intervention des différents panélistes qui est assez intéressant et qui nous intéresse particulièrement dans la mesure où nous sommes en train de lancer une initiative pareille dans le cadre de ce forum pour un peu amorcer cette réflexion au niveau du Sénégal, peut-être, et comme l'a suggéré tout à l'heure l'intervenant, voir comment l'élargir au niveau de la région Afrique, mais en renforçant la dimension environnementale, parce que l'ensemble des interventions sont revenues un peu sur la précarité de la ressource au regard des effets du changement climatique. Alors, c'est vraiment là où nous voulons renforcer l'analyse. Et pour le faire, je suis très intéressée par l'intervention du NEG par rapport au cadre de concertation qui a été mis en place, notamment les directives, la charte pour le bassin du Niger et les directives pour un peu amener les différents partenaires à appliquer le Nexus. Donc c'est là où je voudrais peut-être avoir un peu plus d'éléments en termes d'implication des acteurs au niveau local. Parce que c'est important, si c'est des bassins ou bien des zones qui sont aussi utilisées par les communautés, est-ce que vous avez comment vous avez assuré l'implication même dans l'élaboration de ces documents, ces directives et ces chartes? Voilà, c'était vraiment ma question en vous félicitant encore une fois de plus pour cette activité qui est assez intéressante. Et vous invitez aussi, nous avons une session tout à l'heure à 13h30 au niveau de l'auditorium qui porte sur le Nexus eau, énergie, alimentation et environnement. Ce sera l'occasion de continuer et de voir quelles sont les connexions qu'on peut développer ensemble. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup aussi pour la mention de l'autre environnement encore. On verra, il y a vraiment pas mal de séances sur le Nexus aujourd'hui, donc on va suivre là-bas. On va permettre au directeur technique à répondre et continuer avec quelques pensées que vous avez mentionnées. Merci.
Nous pensons que l'implication des populations bénéficiaires est plus que nécessaire. Elle est même indispensable. Pourquoi? Parce que l'expérience a démontré que les solutions les plus durables et les plus pérennes sont celles qui sont basées sur des initiatives endogènes et donc issues de la population endogène, plutôt que des solutions ici sur des mécanismes exogènes. Et c'est pour cela que j'ai dit qu'au niveau de l'autorité du bassin du Niger, par exemple, nous sommes dans cette dynamique parce que nous sommes en train de travailler déjà avec des coordinations des usagers et usagères qui sont les représentants de toutes les couches d'utilisateurs des ressources naturelles. Et nous sommes également en train, dans le cadre d'un de nos projets, de travailler sur la mise en place de plateformes multisectorielles qui prendront en compte l'ensemble des utilisateurs, l'ensemble des acteurs et l'ensemble des partenaires qui sont concernés par les différents écosystèmes sur lesquels nous sommes en train de travailler dans le cadre de ce projet. Donc je réitère encore que l'implication de la population n'est pas seulement nécessaire, elle est même indispensable si on veut vraiment aller vers des solutions strictement endogènes. Merci.
Now I'm happy to hand over to my colleague Sirene Ander. She's the head of the Nexus Secretariat, of the Global Nexus Secretariat in Bonn. She can give a short overview again, what we are doing as well on the Nexus Resource Platform, how we're providing the lessons learned from the different regions as well to other regions here, and happy to have some final summary words of the discussion we had today. Serene, please.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you especially to the panelists for these very insightful messages and statements. I have to admit that when I was young and I had this Rubik's cubes in my room, I never actually managed to solve it. I would twist and turn it, and no matter how I moved it, I just didn't manage. I just ended up with this big jumble of different colors. But essentially what the Nexus is telling us is that colorful is good. We want colorful. Sustainable and efficient management of natural resources requires us for this cube to become colorful. We need to move away from the neat and monochrome Rubik's Cube and move towards the colors. We need to welcome the colors. We need the different levels of the Nexus governments, horizontal and vertical, to come together and to acknowledge the complex web of interactions that are possible, and to use that assessment as a basis to identify opportunities across sectors and to co-create benefit. So essentially, when we say we promote the Nexus, we're asking for a paradigm shift. We're asking us to leave away what we are used to. We're used to thinking of resources in a categorical manner, but resources, water, the flow of water, the power of energy, it cannot be limited to the sectoral thinking. We need to move beyond those sectors. We've heard across the panel today, across the 5 regions, the challenges and the opportunities that exist in trying to bring about this paradigm shift in the 5 different regions. We have learned across the 5 regions the importance of regional organizations to champion a joint vision for using the Nexus in shared water management. We've heard about the importance of engaging the different levels and the different sectors in joint planning processes, as has been the case in the Niger Basin. We learned in the Southern African regions the importance of creating governance structures, so actually institutions within the regional organizations that bring together the different sectors and that create joint planning, identification of metrics, and the importance of coordination. And of course, we also learned we heard of the importance of acknowledging the role not only of having the right institutional setup, but also taking into account the interest and the needs of the users. Not only because they're the ones that are turning on the power switches or turning on the water taps, but also because they play essentially an important role in solving tensions that could occur in the management of water between countries. And finally, I would like to point out the importance of this kind of event, the importance of bringing together different regions and sharing what's working well and what's not working well. The saying goes, think global, but act local. And the 5 regions are actively implementing and applying the Nexus approach, as we have heard. But it's also important to not leave it at that, but to also come together in events like these and to exchange our experiences. And of course, it doesn't just stop at events like this. There's a lot of background work that goes into this. And in this context, I would like to invite you to visit the Nexus Resources platform that we are administering in the context of the program. You can visit water-energy-food.org and read about a wealth of information and projects and initiatives that are going on worldwide to promote integrated solutions and holistic thinking. I would like to wish the 5 panelists a great continuation and bon courage for the rest of the year of implementation that is left in the context of the Nexus Regional Dialogues Programme. And thank you to the audience for your attention.